You're listening to the Wilmac Wire, the podcast that's designed to give you a glimpse into a growing SaaS company, specifically in the realm of customer interaction technology. From customer experience to data management, we'll talk about it here. Thank you for tuning in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Wilmac Wire. Happy 2025. It is January when this episode is releasing and this formal start of our season 2. So we've got a really excited season planned for you guys coming up on the Wilmac Wire. And really, I have an awesome guest. Some would say a regular. After you've been on multiple episodes from season 1, but Bob Pease, our Vice President of Engineering, is joining us today for something that we want to kind of start scheduling more regularly, something we're calling Behind the Build of Continuity Replay. Like I said, we're going to make Bob a more consistently regular guest instead of me asking him every random couple weeks. But we're going to essentially talk today and for other episodes similar to this, talk about the latest development updates on continuity replay, the problems that these feature updates are solving for, and just really chatting about what's coming. So Bob, how's it going? How's the team doing?
Yeah, the team's doing great. Things have been awesome. It's been a busy quarter for us.
Yeah.
Very intentional.
Right.
We spent a lot of time planning what we wanted to focus on for the dev team for
Yeah.
our Q1 of 2025. And we've been ripping right through a lot of new features. So that was a big push for us. We really focus on customer value and a little bit less on back-end technologies and that sort of thing that the dev team still has to maintain and be responsible for, but really put the preference on adding new features to the product.
Right. And that's a great segue to just jump right into the episode. I'm going to keep this question generic, but I want to kind of dive into some of those new features that we were talking about and what value they can bring. So really, what's been going on in the world of continuity replay, and what has your team been up to these last few months?
Yeah, great question. I'll start with the coolest stuff for our customers probably, and that is integration with CCaaS platforms. So we're able to pull in your data from your production CCaaS systems on a daily basis. Our first CCaaS integration was with NICE CX1.
Okay.
We also have 5.9, and then 2 new ones that we added for this quarter are Amazon Connect and Zoom integrations. So those are really fun. We've had a bunch of smaller updates as well that have gone into the product that aren't necessarily like big bang features, right? But smaller things for enhancements.
Before you go into those, I don't want to glaze over those integrations because I mean, we started developing continuity back in the 2010s. You came in with your team in 2023. You just passed your year anniversary. Mark Anthony's just hitting his year anniversary mark. So you guys are so fresh and new, and I don't want to glaze past the fact that like there's just been so many significant changes to the value of the product over this past year. Like just looking at it before, we were focusing primarily on those legacy systems, your old recorders, your old call center platforms that you had moved off of, they're on-prem, everything's stuck in a proprietary format. Continuity is kind of like that method of getting it out and still making it accessible and compliant. Now the production conversation comes into play. We can be extracting stuff from near real time, and then it's really a consolidated portal for all your legacy stuff and then all the stuff that's going on day to day. So I think that's really cool. And the fact too that you guys are building on those integrations so quickly just offers a lot of flexibility to the platform and more value to that.
Yeah, and furthermore, the historical approach for us for continuity replay was getting your legacy data, which was like someone had to go and do that, right? Like there was a step, and even though we had software and scripting to help us do it, like a physical human being had to migrate your data for you. And with these CCaaS integrations, it's all automated. Right? It's really set it and forget it. And you're going to get that data in continuity replay on an ongoing basis. So definitely a big game changer.
Yeah, really cool. All right, sorry to cut you off, but
keep
going.
So some of the smaller enhancements, when I build software, I talk a lot about incremental progress. I get really excited about some of the really small enhancements that we've rolled out. So one of my favorite ones, it's such a tiny feature enhancement, but the ability to share your filters. So when you're in the product and you're applying your filters, they're now URL driven. So like your URL in the web browser changes as you apply those filters. And then you can share those with other members of your team, right? Which is really helpful. And again, it's just one of those small things. It's a tiny user experience change. But to me, those are the things that really add a lot of value because it's going to speed up your workflow processes.
Right.
We also added an interactions dashboard. This is a pretty fun feature because it's our first foray into reporting into the platform. So it's a dashboard made up of 5 pieces. So we have 2 statistics that are compliance driven.
Okay.
We'll show you the total number of interactions that are on legal hold.
Okay.
We'll show you the total number of interactions that are going to purge within the next 30 days. So if you're leveraging retention policies within Continuity Replay, we're going to let you know how many are going to age off within the next 30 days.
Right. Okay.
We also have the average length, duration of your interactions, right? So if you've got 1 million phone calls, we'll show you what's the average duration of those phone calls.
Gotcha.
And then we have a 30-day chart that shows you, this ties back into those CCaaS integrations, 30-day chart of how many interactions we pulled in per day.
Okay.
Yep. So really cool insights into how much data you have within our system. And then finally, we give you a pie chart breakdown that shows you interactions by type.
Gotcha.
So if you're an omni-channel organization, which so many customers are these days, if you've got chat, email, and audio, you can kind of see the breakdown. And it's a good indication of like where your interactions are actually coming through.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. And it adds a little bit of pizzazz, like a nice screen to look at when you log in instead of just rows and rows of interactions. What brought about the creation of that dashboard?
So many things. We have a lot of data in the system, right? So reporting, in my opinion, in modern applications, it's like table stakes, right? It's pretty much expected.
Right.
We really want to be able to help customers gain insights out of this data, though, right? It's not just, hey, here's a grid that you can search through and replay your audio calls.
Right.
We really want to turn and start giving people more value out of the product. So the interactions dashboard was the first step towards that. There are multiple things coming in 2025. They're going to make it better, making the dashboards interactive.
Right.
So that if you see something that stands out in your dashboard and you want to click on it, it will go and filter down to just those interactions. We want to add different reporting types as well that are really geared towards compliance folks. Things of that nature.
Right.
Ingestion dashboard. So if you are wired up to a production CCaaS system, getting more insights than just how many records per day. There's a lot of really great data in there that I think customers are going to want to see on a regular basis.
Yeah. And it's surprising that this hasn't been a more it's kind of a more of a recent conversation that we've been having with customers. Like it's almost been expected, hey, it's just a platform that's going to hold my data. And we're like, no, there's more to it. There's so much value in this data. Here's just a quick overview of like everything that you have in here in one page. And like I said, visually pleasing, which I'm in marketing, I like aesthetically pleasing things to look at. So that's really cool that was an addition.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those areas where like we have a particular type of person that's using the platform, but they have to report out to their manager or whoever. So reporting is kind of a step towards that. I would also say the dashboard was a little bit of a build it and see if they come kind of approach. We didn't have a lot of customers asking for this, but we see the value. Right? So we wanted to be proactive and add that in there. And then we'll continue talking to our customers to see how could this be even more valuable to you in the future.
Right. And like you said, the different kind of personas that are using the platform, compliance and maybe more customer experience, call center side of things, they want to see different things. So that's really cool. And I think to keep us moving along, you talked about one of the features within the dashboard, like classifying it by different types of interactions. Like continuity is more than just call recordings now, which is really exciting.
Yes, it is. So we've enhanced our media player. So it's now just one media player. So when you want to replay an interaction, it opens up in a drawer, but you can also pop it out into a separate window. And that media player supports all the channel types that you'd expect through your contact center solutions. So it plays audio, it plays screen recordings as well, which is pretty neat. And we recently released email and chat capabilities in the cloud version.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So all your modalities, all your different solutions that you're using to record them all in one place. That's really cool.
100%. I don't know, should we keep talking about some of the other? We have so
Yeah,
many features
I
we
know
could
there are so
cover.
many.
There's another kind of a big one, external data storage.
Yeah.
We should probably rebrand that for external conversations, but
Yeah.
not every organization wants to keep their actual like customer data within our cloud.
Right.
So we're adding the ability to bring your own whatever cloud storage, whether it's Amazon S3 buckets, Azure Blob Storage, or GCP buckets.
Okay.
So that's in there, and now you can use our cloud to host the actual application, but have your storage be owned and controlled by your own organization.
Why do some organizations want to do that?
Security primarily.
Okay.
It's a concern, right? Like this data is really sensitive, right?
Yeah.
And we're now the custodians of it. So some folks are just more comfortable keeping that within house.
Gotcha.
So that they can control all of the access and the life cycle of the actual raw data.
Right.
But then our application can kind of tie into it for the search and replay portion.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, like you said, I know we have a long list of stuff that we could probably talk through, and we'll definitely use other episodes to dig through it. But I want to talk more about how these features translate into the problem solving aspect of it, because I know the solution is driven by customer requests, the challenges that the customers are facing, they bring to us, and we take that into account as we develop our roadmap. So what kind of challenges were customers running into that led to these updates? And like, do you have a real world example that you can kind of talk us through?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a customer currently, a group within this customer receives requests often internally to go and fetch an interaction and like export that data and provide it back to another group within the organization.
Okay.
They were struggling because they had this legacy on-prem system with like 3.5 million calls. Okay. And then they were using RingCentral.
Gotcha.
So their problem is kind of twofold, right? Like someone comes and says, hey, I need this interaction that happened. They got to figure out, well, which system is it in? Which might be like inherently obvious to the person serving the request just because they know the system. But just imagine you don't have all that context. Right. Like you immediately have to go sift through a bunch of data. But then they had to go into 2 different systems, right? So like that was just, that whole workflow is just very cumbersome and clunky for them. So they're now using Continuity Replay to primarily serve those requests. They're going and looking, they're doing filters for particular agents within the organization or particular dates or particular skill groups, and then exporting out of Continuity Replay to provide back. Okay. The other major problem that we solved is, again, back to that legacy data. A lot of it was really old. Yeah. And they've since implemented retention policies based on skill group. But they didn't have a way to apply it to the legacy data. So our first step was extract and put all that data into Continuity Replay, and then we went through and applied the retention policies based on the skill groups. Now they don't have to worry about keeping old data around that they don't want anymore. It's going to be auto-purged from the system as it ages off. Gotcha. And then those same policies will be applied to any data coming in through RingCentral. Yeah. As well.
It's interesting how like varied every organization that we work with, their retention policies are.
Yes.
I think that speaks though to how flexible Continuity Replay can be in those types of situations. Like compliance is not like a 3-page book to read through. It is manuals and manuals, and every organization has a different manual. So that's really cool. And I never thought of it to break it out based on skill groups. I haven't heard of that before.
It's funny because, you know, when I guess I naively made the assumption when I first started working on the product that organizations had a retention policy. It was just global, right? Like any interaction we ingest needs to go away after 7 years, for example. That is totally not the case. We have, I want to say, like almost 60 retention policies basically for this customer based on skill group, and they range in years. Yeah. And then we have a fallback for. There's even a policy for, well, what happens if no skill was applied to an interaction? There's kind of a backup policy for that. Gotcha. To make it a little bit more convoluted, this customer is not solely based in the U.S. So they have data outside of the U.S. and that data doesn't even get a retention policy, right? So we have to account for those types of things as well. Yeah.
Interesting. Had a question, but it escapes me. But we'll just keep the ball rolling with it because I think the live customer examples too and the conversations that you're having are so important to kind of how you're seeing the product come together and the future possibilities within it. So I just love to hear about the success stories and just a small tweak to the product that can make such a big difference within, like you said, a workflow that's so cumbersome to now almost fully just a seamless process, you know? Okay. And out of everything that you and the team have rolled out over the past few months, like we talked about, it's been a lot. What's the update that you're most excited about, or what's something that you think customers are really going to love?
Yeah, all of it. No, I'm kidding. I guess I'll start with the personal answer.
Yeah.
I love the incremental things.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few features that I would classify as low effort for us as an organization and kind of low impact to the customer, but these are foundational features.
Right.
So the one that's in my brain right now is interaction tagging. So now you can go into your interactions and you can add tags, and then you can search on those tags. Okay. So that's cool. Yeah. But that's why kind of low impact to the customer. Right. There's not a lot that you can do with that right now. The reason we prioritize this feature though, is that it bleeds into reporting. Yep. Right. So now you can interact with your interactions and tag them and then build reporting off of it. And then we have some other features in the pipeline for 2025 that are going to leverage interaction tagging to work. So things like customer journey or even a timeline. Right. If you want to tag 10 different interactions under the same tag and then see them all in one timeline, to kind of see how one of your customers kind of progress through all these interactions. You'll be able to see, hey, they started with a web chat here, and then they called us, and we had 3 phone conversations, and then we ended with an email. You'll be able to see that all in one timeline. So it excites me because it just sort of like opens up the path for opportunity for additional features on top of it. Yeah.
And that like the timeline conversation that you were just having, that makes me think kind of about our public safety practice group, who are all about timelines, and there's so many different interactions within a 911 center, stringing those all together and using interaction tagging as a way to do that. It's really interesting. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm excited. Yeah. What was a wow, we nailed it moment for you and the team this past quarter?
There's a few. I would say the dashboard was one, because that was one where we threw to an individual developer to work on front to back, and she just crushed it. And it came in like ahead of schedule too, which is the other great thing, right? I'm a big believer in like driving your timelines and like accurate estimates, and you never want to be late, but you also typically don't want to be really early either, because that's just kind of a sign that you're not really estimating when your delivery times are going to come in. Yeah. But we were able to sneak it in a little bit faster than expected. And in my mind, that's good. And we'll continue to kind of measure and improve on that aspect of it. But having that come in early just kind of set the pace for the whole quarter so far. And then we were able to fast forward more features. And now I'm like, well, by the end of the quarter, we might be looking to pull in additional features. Right. Right.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
That's kind of an aha moment for me. It's really kind of behind the scenes and how the dev team operates. Yeah. It was pretty insightful for how we plan work and how we do the discovery portion, which is like gathering requirements and doing the technology investigations for any feature we have to implement. Right. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. For me. That's awesome. Yeah. I love it. And your dev team is a team of 5 now. Yeah. Which is really cool. Yeah. Got a whole starting 5 basketball squad going right there. All right. And I guess before we wrap up, and without giving away too much, what's next on the continuity replay priority list for you and your team? And how does it fit into the bigger picture of where we see continuity going?
It's on my roadmap over here. So there's a few things. So we talked a little bit about that, like the retention policies. Yeah. The way it works today, we have to sit down and we have a conversation and some back and forth and probably some Excel spreadsheets with the customer to figure out what the retention policy has to be. We want to turn that into a whole feature. In my mind, everything that we do needs to be like self-serve to the customer at the end of the day. So we want to add configurable lifecycle management to the product, so that they can go in and put what those retention policies are instead of having it come to us.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. When we were talking about the customer, I was like, oh, how does that work? Yes, okay, that's a cool one.
Yeah, absolutely. Transcription comes up a lot with us. Some folks have transcriptions already. Cool. What about those 5 million legacy calls that we're going to import that
right.
were around before transcription was really a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to build in the ability to kind of on-demand transcription. So you can click a button in the UI, it will transcribe it, show you in the UI, and then we'll save that for future use as well.
Okay.
And then general, I guess beyond just data lifecycle management, bulk updates in general.
Yeah.
Right. Again, back to the tagging.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to filter down to a set of records and you want to tag right now, you got to do it one at a time.
Yeah.
So like bulk edit capabilities is
cool.
a pretty big one. It's going to speed up workflows for our customers.
Right.
And then the last one is more reporting.
Yeah.
Which I know is kind of ambiguous and generic right now. But like I said, we introduced that first dashboard. We'll definitely have some enhancements to that. More data, make it interactive by adding an additional dashboard.
Yeah.
Will be coming in 2025 as well.
Very cool.
2025, I should say.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. I'm looking forward to having that conversation again in a few months and seeing how it's progressed. And hopefully we'll be able to get some more visuals out there so people can kind of picture what we're talking about and everything. Right. Okay. So that wraps it up. That wraps up our Behind the Build, our first episode of season 2 for the Wilmac Wire. So Bob, thank you so much for your time and for joining me. Once again on the podcast. For anyone listening, if you want to learn more about Continuity Replay, you can always check out our website, www.wilmactech.com. You can go to our company LinkedIn page. You can follow Bob on LinkedIn and connect with him. Shameless plug. But really, we got a ton of resources on there, and myself and the marketing team working closely with Bob and his team to kind of build those resources to make our solution more accessible and more visible to the public out there who are dealing with these very prevalent issues. So like I said, Bob, thanks for your time. Thank you and your dev team for all you guys do and how you push them, because I know our organization is pushing you guys. So really appreciate that. Like I mentioned, this will be a regular type of episode where we'll cover new stuff for Continuity Replay and kind of what's coming down the pipe. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's listening. Bob, any final words?
I look forward to the next one.
Yeah,
for sure. I think 2025 is going to be a huge year. And that's not just trying to will it into action. Like it just really aligns with our strategic plans as a board. Really excited to start taking Continuity Replay in other directions as well, and really starting to add a lot of brand new value to the product that wasn't there before.
Right. Oh, I'm excited. That sounds good. It makes my life as a marketing person a lot easier when there's so much excitement going on. So, all right. Thanks again, Bob. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Wilmac Wire.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wilmac Wire. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform or visiting our website at www.wilmactech.com. You can also watch the full video recordings of every episode on our YouTube channel. Thank you for being a part of our community, and again, thank you for listening to the Wilmac Wire.